The morning sun beamed over Maplewood Lane, painting the neat row of houses with soft gold. Spring was in full swing, whispering promises of new beginnings and fresh growth. On the corner lot stood a cheerful blue house with a wide, sunny yard. The garden there was the pride and joy of its owner, Paul Pigman, known affectionately by all as Daddy Pig. Today he stood at the edge of his garden, hands on his hips and a hopeful smile on his face. He was surveying a patchwork of colorful blooms, verdant vegetable rows, and unfortunately, an encroaching tangle of weeds and wild grass. It was threatening to overtake all his hard work. Daddy Pig was stout and cheerful, his soft beard already flecked with a little dirt before the day's labor even began. He had an easy laugh, the kind that could shake the leaves on the trees, and a gentle patience earned from years of coaxing reluctant carrots and running after mischievous pets. All week, he had looked forward to Saturday, his official garden rescue day. A time set aside to bring order and a little magic back to his beloved plot. As he scratched his chin and pondered where to start, his partner Penelope, whom most called Peppa, stepped out onto the porch, a mug of tea in each hand. She was bright-eyed and sharp, always quick with a clever idea. "Here you are, Paul," Peppa said, handing him a steamy mug. "Fuel, before you tackle the wilderness. The garden's looking lively this year, perhaps a touch too lively, judging by that far corner." Daddy Pig laughed, accepting the tea. "We certainly think it's their lucky day. But not to worry, Daddy Pig's rescue mission begins now." He finished his drink and started roaming the garden beds, talking all the while. "Let's see, tomatoes need staking. The courgettes are getting cramped. Oh, and the sunflowers, well, they appear to be in open rebellion." He knelt beside the first row, pulling on thick gloves and starting with stubborn crabgrass that had slipped between rows of lettuce. The air was full of birdsong and the subtle earthy perfume of petunias. Soon, he was in the familiar rhythm of tugging roots, trimming tangled stems, and humming to himself. He'd stop only now and then to greet a friendly passing neighbor. Mid-morning brought a pleasant interruption. His friend and next-door neighbor, George, arrived. He was wheeling a barrow heavy with tools and his signature can-do grin. A lifetime fan of DIY weekends, George enjoyed lending a hand almost as much as he relished a fresh tomato at the end of a long day. "Morning, Paul. I see the beast of Maplewood Lane has returned," George chuckled, nodding at a particularly unruly swath of brambles along the fence. "It never really leaves, does it?" Daddy Pig grinned back. "I could certainly use an extra pair of hands." Together, they hatched a hasty plan. George would tackle the brambles with his ultra-heavy-duty shears, which he claimed could snip a broom handle in two. Meanwhile, Daddy Pig would press on with the vegetable beds. As they worked side by side, old stories and gentle teasing filled the air. They talked of years past, the time the beans grew so fast they nearly blocked the back door, or when squirrels made off with half the strawberries before breakfast. "Remember when we built that scarecrow with Peppa's old raincoat?" George grinned. "It frightened me more than it did the crows," Daddy Pig replied, sending them both into hearty laughter. As the sun climbed higher, it became clear the garden would require more than just brute strength and good humor. Daddy Pig surveyed the flower beds and frowned. Something was wrong. Several prized roses drooped, their leaves mottled with yellow. Marigolds, usually bursting with color, seemed stunted and sad. Just then, Peppa came skipping down the steps, a tote bag slung over her shoulder. "I thought you might want some backup," she announced, producing a squat bottle from the bag. "Organic fertilizer. I thought it might give the flowers a boost. Want me to have a look?" "Rescue operation is officially upgraded to full team alert," Daddy Pig declared. "Let's get to the bottom of it." He handed Peppa the trowel, and together they knelt beside the roses, inspecting leaves and sniffing the soil. "Looks like you've got a few hungry aphids and possibly a nutrient issue," Peppa diagnosed. "George, any chance you could check the compost heap?" Daddy Pig asked. George saluted and ambled off, always ready for a side quest. Peppa mixed her magic elixir, carefully measuring and sprinkling it around the roots. Daddy Pig gently washed the leaves with soapy water to send the aphids on their way. Peppa then planted a few marigolds nearby companion plants to help repel future pests. By lunchtime, the group had made visible progress. The tangled brambles had been tamed, the tomatoes staked and pruned, and the flower beds relieved of dying leaves. Peppa had even managed to find just enough space to tuck in a tray of basil seedlings from the kitchen windowsill. The air was heavy with the scent of fresh earth and promise. The rescue team retreated to the patio, where Peppa set out a picnic of sandwiches and lemonade. They sat together in the dappled shade, peeling off gloves and sipping cool drinks. Daddy Pig felt a glow of satisfaction, but also the edge of fatigue settling into his bones. He looked over the garden, seeing it not in terms of chores left to do, but as a living tapestry, each plant thriving thanks to a little care, a lot of patience, and the help of good friends. He realized that the garden had a life of its own. Every year was different, every crisis a lesson, every bloom a small triumph. After lunch, George headed home to confront his own dandelions, and Daddy Pig and Peppa took a stroll through the garden, basket in hand. They harvested sweet peas and snipped fragrant sprigs of dill, chatting quietly. "It's funny," Daddy Pig mused, "how every rescue day feels monumental at the start. But in the end, it comes down to small acts, pulling a weed here, pinching a leaf there, just noticing things." Peppa nodded, tucking a stray lock of hair behind her ear. "That's what makes a real gardener, I think. Not just the grand plans, but paying attention. Even if it means dealing with a very unpredictable sunflower revolt." As they rounded the last bed, Peppa noticed a cluster of earthworms at the base of the compost heap, the soil rich and black. She grinned and nudged Daddy Pig. "Your compost's doing better than ever. The worms are happy." "And if they're happy, the plants will be too." Daddy Pig gazed out at his revived garden, now alive with possibility. Teamwork, attention to detail, and good compost. That's the recipe for a truly amazing garden rescue. The day wound down and the sun dipped low, painting the sky in pastels. Daddy Pig, a little sore but deeply content, sat on the back step with Peppa. They watched sparrows dunk themselves in the bird bath and listened to the gentle rustle of sunflowers. The scent of basil and tomato vines drifted on the breeze. "We should make a habit of this," Peppa said softly. "Not just the rescue days, but the sharing, the doing it all together. Come rain or shine." Daddy Pig nodded, reaching for her hand. "That's the idea I've heard all season." That evening, as darkness settled and the stars blinked awake one by one, Daddy Pig looked out over his garden. It was now orderly, hopeful, and ready for a new season. From the tidy rows to the buzzing life in the soil, every corner bore the mark of their care and collaboration. He knew challenges would come again. Weeds would return. Storms would bend stems, and sometimes things would just go wrong. But with good friends and good soil, there was nothing the team couldn't handle. And so Maplewood Lane, with its chorus of frogs and the sweet scent of jasmine, settled into the night, the garden thrumming invisibly with life and quiet victory. Daddy Pig, champion of sunflowers and defender of marigolds, smiled into the dusk ready for whatever tomorrow would bring. Thanks for joining us on this little garden adventure. We hope it brought a smile to your face. If you enjoyed it, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that bell for more stories. See you next time.